Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, and today I am going to be doing a movie review. First of all, I do have a confession to make, a rather shameful one. I had not watched a movie in 2026 until about a week ago. Beginning of March, I finally watched a movie in 2026. This is quite unusual for me. I don't always watch movies regularly, but January and February tend to be pretty heavy movie watching months for me, so it's weird that I didn't watch any this year. I'm usually pretty gung-ho about watching as many Oscar-nominated films as I can, and this year I just could not find the gumption. So my general plan of wanting to do more standalone movie reviews has been kind of pushed back because I just haven't had the gumption to watch any movies until, like I said, about a week ago. So now I have, and I do want to start doing some more, maybe slightly more regular movie reviews, standalone movie reviews. I did a bunch last October when I did what I called Spooktober film reviews, where I reviewed a bunch of the horror movies that I watched in October, and I think that went over relatively well. It seems to have been something that some of you at least enjoyed, and so I therefore want to continue to do more movie reviews because I do watch a lot of movies. As you may or may not know, I have a master's degree in cinema and media studies, so movies are kind of what I did for a really long time, and I've seen a lot of them, and I continue to watch a lot of movies, generally speaking, just apparently not in January or February this year, which is fine. So that's what I'm going to do today. Today I'm going to do a review of The Bride, which is a new release written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. This film is a remix, redux, remake, a play on The Bride of Frankenstein, which is a 1935 film directed by James Whale, which was the sequel to his very popular original Frankenstein from 1931. The Bride of Frankenstein, directed by James Whale, is widely considered to be the superior of the two films. And in it, Elsa Lanchester famously plays both the bride, the creature that is created to be the bride of the monster, and she also plays the authoress, Mary Shelley, in a sort of prologue at the beginning of the film. And so that is where we get the premise of this film, wherein Jessie Buckley plays both the bride, the woman who has died and who is brought back to life, and she also plays Mary Shelley in a kind of framing, I wouldn't even say it's a frame narrative. It's not really a narrative, but she is there, right? She's there as Mary Shelley, and she's also there as the bride. This is kind of a what if the bride, but feminist, and the bride had actually had some agency and did more than stand around for like one scene and actually had some dialogue, right? Because that's right. Despite the fact that it's called The Bride of Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein really only has just one scene of Elsa Lanchester being the bride at the very end in the climax of the film, and she doesn't have any dialogue, right? So this is like Maggie Gyllenhaal's general idea is like, what if The Bride of Frankenstein, but the bride actually is like a person who has her own agency and there's some feminist stuff going on here, right? Which, for me, is a very appealing premise, right? I love that premise, actually. I like it. And also, setting it in 1935 or 1936, in the mid-1930s, I also really like that, right? I like a period piece, and I like the the sort of ironic wink, wink, nudge, nudge of setting it at right around the same time that the original Bride of Frankenstein was actually released. I like that, right? That all very much appeals to me. And I like Jessie Buckley. I like Christian Bale. I like the whole cast. I enjoy Maggie Gyllenhaal's films. There have been a few of them that I've seen that I've enjoyed. So I was in for this, right? I was prepared to enjoy it. I did not enjoy it that much, I'm going to admit. Did not enjoy it all that much. Unfortunately, I feel like this film is a lot of flash and pizzazz and not really much substance. I feel like there is a nugget of a good movie here, a movie that's really about women finding their own identities and finding their own voices separate from the men in their lives. I feel like that the nugget of that kind of movie exists in moments in this film, but it constantly undermines itself in various ways. The fact that all of these women are irrevocably attached to the men in their lives is a constant way that this film sort of undermines itself. The way that it gestures at certain things without really getting into any of the whys or wherefores or any of the psychological effects just doesn't, it never goes far enough beneath the surface to really affect me. This film really wears its influences on its sleeve. There's a lot, for some reason, there's a lot of Bonnie and Clyde in this. And I would love a more feminist Bonnie and Clyde, but this movie ain't it, unfortunately. It's not a more feminist Bonnie and Clyde. It's just sort of dabbling in the aesthetics of Bonnie and Clyde without actually doing anything with it. There's a lot of Sid and Nancy here, and it's very similar, right? It's a very similar vibe where it's like, it's going on the vibe, right? It's going on the vibe, but it's not really doing anything new or interesting with the material. There's even some young Frankenstein here, which, don't get me wrong, I appreciate Christian Bale doing a musical number. Haven't really seen that since Newsies. And I really like Newsies. But, you know, it didn't quite land for me. The message, if there is any kind of message here, is very garbled. It doesn't seem to know what it's trying to say politically. I do find it interesting that the only people that the bride actually kills herself are all cops, which again is like pretty heavy-handed, but doesn't really have anything interesting to say. It doesn't really have anything interesting to say about violence against women. It doesn't really have anything interesting to say about corrupt cops. And weirdly, we have a couple of sort of more sympathetic detective characters in here, which are honestly kind of superfluous to the plot, which is weird because they're played by Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz, which, like, you would think that those two actors with their chops would never be superfluous anywhere, but they're completely superfluous. Even Penelope Cruz's character, who's, I believe her character's name is Myrna Malloy, which is just a really clear play on Myrna Loy, who was an actress in the 30s who played Nora Charles in the Thin Man films. But, like, again, they seem to be extraneous, and they probably could have been cut entirely, and it wouldn't have harmed the film at all if they had been cut, with the exception of, like, one little bit at the end of the film, which I won't spoil the end of the film if you want to see it, but you know, there is a moment at the end of the film where Penelope Cruz's character and Annette Bening's character have a moment where I was like, this is kind of getting at something. But again, it just didn't fully land because the rest of the film doesn't really bear it out. And Annette Bening is wildly, wildly underused and kind of wasted also in this film. So, yeah, it had some fun moments, but it definitely had even more moments that, for me, really sort of undermined everything that it seemed like it was trying to do or to say. And so ultimately, this ended up just being, it's not a terrible movie, but it is kind of a nothing burger of a movie for me, really, which is sad because I really wanted this movie to be good. Um, Again, the entire sort of premise of it and the entire idea behind it is just so good and so interesting and has so much potential for me that I'm just very sad that it turned out not to be particularly interesting or good. So unfortunately, I was rather disappointed by The Bride as my first movie of the year, but I am glad that I have now started watching movies again, and I am hoping to get some more movie reviews out over the course of this year as I watch more movies. So I'm going to be doing my level best to watch more movies going forward, because now I do have the gumption to watch some more movies, and I will probably try to review a few more of them as well going forward. So I hope that you will join me for that. If you have things to say about The Bride or about The Bride of Frankenstein or about anything else, leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more movie reviews from me and book reviews, please subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.